We need to let people know. We have to put it out there. Because I just know when I do that, because it's that secrets, right? Let's face it. If you're doing this and nobody knows you're doing it, it's sort of like this little secret.
Yeah, I don't
and
like
that's
that.
where abuse happens, right? Abuse happens in those secrets. So it's so important that if you're thinking about or you think you might need medication and you've been apprehensive about taking it because of the things we're talking about today, it's possible that you could do it safely. But you have to be real. You have to be honest. You have to say, why am I taking this medication? What do I expect out of this medication? How do I monitor it and manage it? And you can do that by medical people and non-medical people that are close to you.
Hey, everybody. We have a new member for the Sober Friends. This is different than the episode-to-episode supporter. Our new member is Jeff. He has donated for the whole year, along with Mitzi, who is our other subscriber. If you find value in the Sober Friends podcast, I recommend that you go to buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod and give a donation. You can be a member. You can do one-time support in buying us a coffee. So what do you get for it? You get the knowledge knowing that you're keeping the podcast in all the podcatchers so that the next sober curious person comes along and they can hear the right thing in recovery. If you find value in the show, then give with what you think the value is worth. Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you very much, Mitzi, for supporting the Sober Friends podcast. I'm Matt.
Hey, I'm Steve.
Hey, I'm John.
This is the Sober Friends podcast. We're here for the sober curious, the new guy, and the old timer. We're here to talk about the stuff anyone looking to live alcohol-free has to face day to day, and how we overcame those struggles. We speak for no 12-step group, but we do try to remain anonymous. You're not alone. This is the Sober Friends podcast. I've had discussions, Steve, especially when I was early in recovery with people around medication. One guy that we know who's been around a long time, I told him when I was brand new that I was traveling somewhere and I was afraid of not having my medication with me. He mentioned that, put it all in a prescription bottle so in case you get pulled over, that the police aren't going to, question you about that, which I always thought was weird, but everybody comes from a different path. And I'm sharing that I'm on a new medication. So I've shared a lot before that I have ADHD, diagnosed with ADHD, trauma, anxiety, all that type of stuff. And my doctor put me on a non-stimulant where he upped the dose of the non-stimulant about a year ago, and I've gotten nothing from it. Going through some further testing, I realized that my ADHD, I didn't realize, the test shows it. My ADHD is pretty severe, and I think I'm very high functioning. And I'm really tired of living like this. So he suggested go to a psychiatrist, because I don't think I can help you with this. Psychiatrists are hard to find in Connecticut. So I have an APRN. It's a virtual practice, but they're based in Connecticut. And it's been great. So the medical treatment I've had for this has been fantastic. The therapist I go to mentioned if you go on a stimulant, I think it's going to change your life. The APRN agreed, and she put me on a very low dose of Vyvanse, which is a type of stimulant. The great news about Vyvanse is it also addresses binge eating disorder, which I have a tendency to binge. And I took it the first day, and it was kind of life-changing. The only way to describe it is I was tired. I'm tired most mornings. It's tough to get out of bed. This is an ADHD symptom. The medicine, after it kicked in, didn't make it feel like I had a bunch of coffee. It just made it feel like I had a good night's sleep. The only way to describe it is if you remember when you first got glasses and you put them on and you knew you couldn't see well, but you didn't realize what things were supposed to look like. That's what it was like. There was like a fog that just receded. And even when I had trouble focusing, I had enough willpower to get the focus back. It's not a cure. It's a treatment. And I'm learning, I don't think you really can cure ADHD, but you can take medicines. So here's the conundrum, Steve. It's in the amphetamine class. It's a Schedule 2. It's the highest schedule that the government's going to allow you to have out there with a prescription. They only give me enough pills between visits so that if I decide I'm going to start doubling up, I'm going to run out real fast. Because it's an amphetamine, have I broken my sobriety?
Absolutely not. I mean, listen, the big book tells us that they don't have all the answers. Big sneeze there. And it tells us that, you may have to get outside help, which is what you're doing, right? I mean, listen, there's a whole medical field out there. The nice thing is, today, there's a lot more awareness about abuse of all kinds of medicines, all kinds of prescriptions. So I don't think anybody's, well, no, that's not true. People are more aware about prescribing them. And I'll give you, for instance, right? My wife has rheumatoid arthritis, and there was a time where they gave you Vicodin for that, right? They gave you painkillers, they gave you opioids, and now they don't anymore, right? Now they don't, because they've changed it. They realize, number one, it doesn't help all that much. Number two, there's just too much, so too much problems for abuse on those things. But so if you take them, and my wife took them pretty regular, pretty to the prescription label. So you have this issue that, AA can't help you with. Recovery can't help you with, right? It's a well-known issue out there of that, and the preferred or the best-known treatment for that is some type of amphetamine, right?
It's the first line,
right? It's one of those things, right? So, and listen, I never think about that. I feel very differently about this. When I change my sobriety date, it's because I'm going to knowingly do something that's going to want me to feel differently, whether that's a legal or illegal drug. So you're right. So if I decide that I'm going to take 4 of those pills when I'm only supposed to take 1 of them, then I think I got to think about changing my sobriety date. Okay. If I pick up, and again, this is me and other people might feel different. If I pick up somebody else's glass that I think is mine and I take a big swig of it and it's not Diet Coke, but a rum and Coke, I'm not changing my sobriety date. I didn't do that purposely. I didn't, I'm not trying to get a buzz. Now, if I go for a second one after that, then that's a different story, right? So I don't think so. It's controversial, right? There are people who will not take anything. I do. Listen, I've taken pain pills. I do all that kind of stuff. I recently had some abdominal surgery, and they gave me like 10, not even, it might have been 5, oxys. And I'll tell you something. The first day I needed them. I mean, it was one of the most painful things I ever went through. But I'll tell you something. I only needed 4 of them. And the 5th one sat up in the cabinet forever. I just didn't need it. And I didn't take it. Right? So if you do it that way, if you're doing it to manage something like you're doing, then I think it's totally, not only is it acceptable, it's responsible.
Ooh, that's a
it's
great
responsible. Well, I mean, it's responsible for your own life, for your family's life, for you to be the best person you can be, right? Oh no, I'm going to sit here and struggle and have that impact my whole family and all the people I love because I've got this weird thing about I don't want to take medication that might help me. No, that's not responsible. The responsible thing is to take it, do it like you're doing, make sure you're doing it under the supervision of a medical person, and take it. And then, listen, you reached out to me right away. You're like, hey, I just want you to know, right? Yeah. I just want you to know. And I've done that with stuff too, right? Just want you to know, want somebody else to know this is what's going on, so that if I call you in a panic, you at least have some background, right? That's what you want. At least, you're not starting cold. So I listen, there's a medical field out there that we need, especially as we age, that we're going to have to do certain things. And listen, I take sleep medication. I take Ambien, right? Some people wouldn't do it. I don't take it every night. Matter of fact, I almost always only take it these days when I travel, because I find that if in a hotel or something, I don't sleep that well. Or if I'm really stressed and I know I'm not sleeping, which is what's been happening. I've been probably taking it for a week straight now because things got really crazy at home. And I'm under a lot of pressure now. And I'll stop taking it, right? I'm like, all right, that's been enough, and I'll stop and I'll wean myself. Not a big deal. But it's prescribed. My doctor gives it to me. I don't abuse it. Matter of fact, I got 10 milligrams, and truthfully, I cut them in half. I only take 5, right? So, I mean, I manage it myself. And that's about it. That's all I really take anyway. But we're responsible for living our best life. And AA gives us a chance. See, this is the point. AA gives us a chance to make these type of choices.
Yes.
Right? Now, you're able to make this choice today because you're sober, you have a program, you're aware of abuse, and you can make some informed decisions about how you want your life to be.
There's a correlation between addiction and ADHD. If you haven't subscribed, I would highly recommend going to soberfriendspod.substack.com. That's where the newsletter sits. I write about sober topics generally associated with the podcast there. And I did a little research for the Substack this week around ADHD and addiction. And there is a correlation between, if you have ADHD and it's untreated, there's a correlation to those people have a higher tendency to become addicted to things. And I totally see it in myself. Yeah. Not addicted to the medication, like those are people who have problems with alcohol. And I can see it as it's a release. I never thought of the term, it's a responsible thing to do to treat this. Because I do have fears that people will judge me. Now, I'm telling the people around me also because I want them to watch me. Mm-hmm. It's important to me am I getting to a bad place with this? Are you seeing something? And I need you to tell me. The pain pill thing would be tough for me. Yeah. Because the first time I took a pain pill, I couldn't wait to take the second. This stuff, I'm not feeling that same way. Yeah. You know, and again, this could be different this is probably a case where they're starting me very, very low. Right. And I can tell it helps, but what I'm on is not enough. It does need to go up. To the point that she was concerned that eat before you take this because I'm afraid you're not going to eat. Mm-hmm. Last week at Joe and Charlie, John's wife makes confections for us, cupcakes, cakes, cookies, and these things are excellent. I had no desire to eat a cupcake. They look great. Mm-hmm. No desire to eat a cupcake.
They were good. I had one.
And in the past, I probably would have devoured 3. Right. But it's working on that level too, which is good. There's something going on there. The other thing I look at is business. I'm afraid to take new positions because it's hard for me to learn new things, because it's hard to focus, especially if I'm not interested. I look at treating this as I'm opening up my career opportunities because I can take some risks now because I will be able to stay focused. Something I did not anticipate, my anxiety is down. When I know when I can feel that the medication's in, I'm not feeling anxiety. When it wears off, it comes back in. It's like that stuff is always there, and I have a force field. The force field goes down, and that stuff creeps back, which I found really interesting because that kind of tells me the ADHD, as I thought, is the root. The anxiety is a branch off of that. I got to go back. Treat the trauma. That helps the other things. But treat the ADHD, the depression, the anxiety, the bad thinking. That also gets tamped down. And I just feel like I'm a much better person. It's really hard to describe what this feels like. I'm not feeling like I'm getting high. It just feels like I can actually think. And I have some energy because I'm rested.
That's where you should feel on it, right? I mean, that's the whole point. You should always be taking, and that's what we're talking about here, right? You should always be taking the lowest dose possible, all right, to achieve what you want. Which is why when I take my Ambience, I find most of the time I just need that little help to get to sleep, right? And anybody who knows anything about Ambien doesn't keep you to sleep; it just helps you get to sleep.
Yes.
So I just why I like that little bit, and boom, it works for me. I'm asleep, and I usually, many nights I'll have a great night's sleep. But a couple things you touched on, okay? And this is a slippery slope of medications that we're talking about. You talked about a lot of off-label uses, if you will, right? Oh, wait a minute. I noticed that I don't want to eat. Right? That's not what it's being prescribed for you for. And that's the slippery slope for these type of medications, because I think if you start thinking, oh my God, I've been eating horribly, I think I'll take a pill so I don't binge, and you start using this off-label, then you're on that slippery slope of, what's that look like, right? So are you using it for the reason, or are you using it not? So I think a lot of people out there, that's what happens, right? Is like you start down the slippery slope of, oh, it helps my anxiety, it helps my eating, but it's not prescribed for that, prescribed for help my focus, you know what I'm saying? So it's easy to slide down there, and then before you know it, not intentionally like you're doing anything really bad, but you're not really using it the way you're supposed to use it. So that's why I think talking to people and not keeping it to yourself, making sure your wife, if you're married or whoever, like, is part of that whole thing. One of the things that happens on both sides, for me and my wife, is when there's certain medications being dispensed, the other one will dispense them, right? So when we first started bringing pain, I had some shoulder operations. I was a little worried about it too, just not because there was a problem for me, but just because I like to feel good in my head, right? Like, I like that stuff. So when those things happen, my wife took them. Now, today I feel comfortable. Like I said, when I had my abdominal surgery, my hernia surgery, I was able to just put them up there and take care of them myself. But it's not like that. My wife has certain medications, right? She takes some things for anxiety, right? Pretty much, I'm the one who dispenses those. Hey, can you get me one of those? Hey, right? Yep. And I'll say to her, so, especially now she's having some issues. I'll like, hey, when'd you take the last one? Nope, you can't have it until 8 o'clock, right? So we help each other with that. Yep. And then here's the final thing I'll tell you. This is what I love about meetings, and I love about, and it's the friends that I know, but I'm sure it's like pretty universal, is our buddy Timmy will say, not everybody has to know all my stuff.
Yes.
Right? Not everybody has to know that you're doing this medical. Now, some people do, right? But not everybody has to know. You don't have to share it at every meeting. You don't have to put it out. Now, there may be some times where you feel, something, it's time for me to share this because I think it could help, because that meeting topic, the topic of that meeting might be around there. Maybe. And that happens to me once in a while. Like, it's happened to me recently with some stuff. I'm like, there's a topic here that I have some information that I could share. I just don't know if I want to share it, right?
Right.
And you have to make that decision. In the past, I would overshare, and I would always share it. Today, I've been much more, I'm much more thoughtful about what I'm going to put out there and what I'm not going to put out there, because I'm able to pick up the phone or do it at Joe and Charlie, where there's only 8 people, not 20 people. And those 8 people I feel pretty comfortable with, right? That I'll share some stuff. So that is something I'll do there. And that's the beauty of having some of those small groups and having that network that you can count on, sharing that information with them.
Yeah, this is definitely a meeting before the meeting or meeting after the meeting conversation,
right? At
least initially. Yeah. This is, who is your crew? Who are the people that you hang with, that you trust the most? Who's your sponsor? Those are the people that you talk to, in my mind. And maybe you bring it up because it's your home group and you want the help of the group of, hey, I'm on this, so I'm kind of deputizing you with watch me, because I want that extra level of accountability. I don't think it's really much of a meeting topic unless something comes up. And I'm at the place now. There are times that I want to share about something going on with me because I'm not feeling good. But I'd say most of the time I'm sharing things because I want to help somebody else.
Yeah.
It's
right.
my son asked me about, well, why do you still go to, why do you still go to meetings? Are you still thinking about drinking? And I'm like, this is a great question. So let me answer this because it's sort of the same reason we do the podcast. I get satisfaction from helping somebody else. And if I don't go, who's going to teach new people the right way to do things? I hope that doesn't sound egotistical, but I do feel pretty good in my skills of teaching the 12 steps that I want to go somewhere. I want to set the right example for new people. And we all of a sudden, ta-da, we have a lot of new people at the Monday meeting. And so it's really important to set the right example of this is how you do it. These are the things you should be doing because, and this is where I have to think through the judgment. There are no professionals in a 12-step group. These are all just former drinkers or current drinkers who want to stop. So everybody may have an opinion, but it doesn't mean they have the right opinion or the right opinion from me.
Right.
That could run. I've seen the gamut from nobody should do steps before their first year, to you shouldn't even take an aspirin, to yelling and screaming about, God knows. I've seen yelling and screaming matches about golf, that you're doing golf at right. The sober weekend, Soberfest, and you're allowing normal people in, and that's literally a screaming match. And I'm like, this is not that important. And I figure, why are we behaving this way? Why am I getting these opinions? Because these are also people in recovery. They may not be drinking, but the alcoholic mind is still there. And I think it also comes from a place of caring, that people don't want to see people suffering. And there's a spectrum as well, where we all have this problem, but some people are worse off than others in some ways. And with some people, being very strict adherence to the 12 steps by the book is the thing that keeps them sober. And for other people, I can take the theory. There's just we all have this thing in common, but everybody's journey is different and we all need different things. I will say I see a lot of behavior there of like, you need a psychiatrist. You need a therapist. You could benefit from some medicine because you're batshit crazy. Mm-hmm. Things you're saying is nuts.
Yeah, a few things you said there. One is, I go to my Friday night meetings, a topic discussion, right? Which means topic comes from the floor or the chairperson if nobody has anything. So my point is this subject does come up on occasion, medication outside of, right? We do talk about it on occasion. I haven't talked about it in a while. And pretty much at a meeting like that, it's pretty much discussed like, hey, you got to do you, right? And we talk about some of the things we talked about. Make sure somebody knows, maybe let somebody else handle all that kind of stuff. And going back to meetings, like you said, why do you go? Why do I go? I'm still learning so much about myself.
Yes.
Right? I'm still learning so much about myself. And I've said one thing that I've realized and I've been sharing at meetings is that when I go to meetings and I listen to other people share, I learn more about myself, right? Because I identify with that and I go, ooh, that's me. Ooh, I feel that way, right? And we talk about reading the big book, how you read a passage for the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th time, and all of a sudden something new appears in it to you. It's the same thing with a meeting. I listen to somebody share, I share. And while I may know I have that same tendency, it doesn't sink home until whatever that day is, it sinks home.
Yeah.
So I learn more about myself, right? Our Monday meeting, we got some new people. We got new people who are struggling to stay sober, right? We got new people. They're showing up. I love that. They're showing up. They want to stay sober, but they're having some trouble staying sober. if we don't go to these meetings, who are they going to look to think that this could be possible for them?
Yes.
Right? That's why we go to meetings. We need to show them that it's possible that even though they're struggling, that they could find this. So it's really that too. So I really need to continue to do that stuff. And finally, listen, I've had a really, really tough week. It's been an up and down week, and very simply, my wife is waiting on some surgery that was supposed to happen in March 11th, and then she got sick and couldn't have it. And then we thought it was going to happen Tuesday. We thought it was going to happen April 1st. Mm-hmm. And it's not happening. And we were really, really disappointed with that. Some things out of our control that we can't fix that. And there's been a little bit of an up and down ride on that. I'm going to tell you something. I had to lean on my program so much this week, especially Friday. I woke up Friday. Well, two things. Wednesday, when we got the news that it was off, I was just emotionally fit to be tied. Mm-hmm. And luckily I have a meeting, right? And we talk about all the time. I go to meetings, I'm able to talk some things. So my point is, when we have anything like this going on, whether it's medication, whether it's whatever, we need to continue to share that with, like you said, your crew of people. We need to let people know, and we have to put it out there. Because I just know when I do that, because it's that secrets, right? Let's face it. If you're doing this and nobody knows you're doing it, it's sort of like this little secret.
Yeah.
And that's where abuse happens, right? Abuse happens in those secrets. So it's so, so important that if you're thinking about, or you think you might need medication, and you've been apprehensive about taking it because of the things we're talking about today, it's possible that you could do it safely. But you have to be real. You have to be honest. You have to say, why am I taking this medication? What do I expect out of this medication? How do I monitor it and manage it? And you can do that by medical people and non-medical people that are close to you.
And I think there's a holistic thing. It's not just one thing where you ran into a problem just because of an addiction. There are other things going on in your mind where alcohol was your security blanket and solution. And I think you said something really great there. You're still learning about yourself. I hope I never stop learning new things. It keeps me current. I know all about the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef. I feel great at 49 that I'm that tapped in, that at least I know enough about that. Did I tell you this? My kids wanted to do a TikTok channel where they asked me pop culture questions to see if I knew it. And they scrapped the idea because in talking to me, they're like, he knows more than we think he knows. Right. It's not going to be any fun.
Right. They wanted to get the dumb dad on there.
Yeah, but they weren't going to get dumb dad.
No, you're pretty into that stuff.
Do it with my wife.
You could do it with me. Tell them they could do it with me. Oh, or your wife.
My wife doesn't know anything.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty hip with the kids. You know?
Right.
I'm not Bob Hope running around in like a Crocodile Dundee outfit in the 80s.
Crocodile Dundee.
But see, that's the problem. That's the thing about you, which always makes me laugh, is you could talk about Bob Hope and you could talk about current day stuff, right? It's like you are tapped into a lot of stuff, and as much as you make fun of yourself, you have this memory of stuff. Like you'll say things to me that just amaze me. And again, that's part of your thing because you're tapped into social media, right? Mm-hmm. This day and age, so you're tapped into that stuff and you're active in it, but. Oh, that would have been fun. I would have loved to have seen your kids.
I'm still willing to do it because I bet there is some stuff that I don't know.
There is.
And now it's a game.
Right. Well, they need to up their game is what it is. Yeah. To stump Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So pretty cool. That could be fun.
All right. Well, I'm interested in what you all have to say about this. I have got to get back to somebody who would like to share their story. And I realized I forgot that I had that as an ask. Especially if you're female and there's a story that you think somebody can benefit from, reach out to me, Matt at soberfriendspod.com. The IMs are open, the DMs are open on Instagram and on TikTok and on Blue Sky, where everything is at Sober Friends Pod. Steve, thank you for listening today. This was important for me.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Matt.
All right. See everybody next week. Bye, everybody.